Welcome back to The Founders Deep Dive, an amazing series where we're going through their lives and the stories behind different founders with very interesting organizations that you're going to hear about. But first of all, I do have to tell you, this is courtesy of Sauti Kenya Leadership and Advocacy Program, which is an amazing partnership between Ushindi Empowerment Group and Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. I have a very lovely woman next to me, but I'm going to allow her to introduce herself before we carry on.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Mique Amondi, and I'm the founder and the CEO of the Global Action for Women with Disability NGO.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Lovely to have you
much.
here. And I'm very much looking forward to the conversation we're about to have.
Thank you.
So I think I'll start with, tell us a bit more about Global Action for Women with Disabilities.
Okay, Global Action for Women with Disabilities, acronym GAWD, was founded in 2019. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, I like telling people it is 5 and 6 years in existence. 5 after first registration, okay, and 6 because we started, we ran for a whole year before registration. Because there are a lot of things that, the requirements are quite tedious before you can register it. And then during that season, we're also going through recruitments, because we have members. Yes. So Global Action at the moment, we have about 380 and counting, because just in the last 2 weeks alone, we've recruited 102 other members with disabilities. It's only for girls and women with disabilities. Okay. Now, when it comes to disabilities, I don't like putting an age to it, because people say from age 12 to 40, 50. But then, as I always say that first, being a woman and then being a woman with disabilities puts you at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. So you get quite a late start to life, or to activities in life, or to things, things that able-bodied people do. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, our offices are in Buru Buru, Buru Buru Phase 4, the opposite Thomas Bach Primary School. I have a staff of 8 people and 4 volunteers. And the volunteers are mainly PWDs, men and women. Because at times, again, we say PWDs issues cut across. At times, you cannot actually restrict it to men, to women and girls. At times, you really have to, step further. Yes. And take in young boys, youth, and men with disabilities, depending on how they come. And then Global Action for Women with Disability, GAWD, was first registered under the Acts of Company. And we went on with it up to last year, when we had to re-register it through the NGO Coordination Board. The reason why we did this, we realized that very many organizations, when they hear the registered under the Acts of Companies, they ask you, okay, so are you a CPU? Are you an NGO? What are you? So we said, no, we are an NGO, because there are 2 bodies that register. But I guess for the charity work that we do, most people are more comfortable with registration under the National NGO board. Okay. Yes. Our jurisdiction or areas of operation are about 6. We are in Nairobi County. We are in Kajiado. We are in Kilifi. We are in Machakos and Kitui. We are also in Siaya. And soon we are stepping in to go into Kiambu. There are varied needs. We cater for varied needs. Our programs are quite expansive. We have advocacy and awareness, first and foremost. Reason, we realize that the issues of disability, in as much as we are a very big population, we find that very few people are ready to go out and consistently engage in issues that would want to put the disabled, or I don't like calling us special needs people. I like calling it for what it is, so that you would also understand exactly what we are and who we are and what we feel and what we go through. And I say we because I am a person with disability and I've lived with that for as long as I know. Okay, I'll tell more about myself later. But then we have advocacy and awareness. Even as I said that I'll talk about myself later, there are a few things that are tied to my personal life and GAWD, which I must point out every so often as we talk. Now, I taught for over 25 years before I resigned to come to run Global Action with Disabilities. Reason I left was I saw the pain, I saw the need, I saw the barriers that were put, and I would like to say systematically put, so that people with disabilities would remain in the dark corners where they are. And I thought, I also met people who'd look at me, and when they get comfortable around me after some time, they would come and ask me, ulipata ajali? I say, no. Were you born like that? No. So how did it happen? Then they would listen to my story. And believe me, so many would come, quite a number would come back later and say, I want to tell you something. And they'll say, teacher, you know what? I also have a child, a girl or a boy with disability. Now imagine hajawahi enda shule. Then you ask, why? Don't you just like the way I am? I'm articulate, I do my things, I'm very independent. Wouldn't you want your child to be that independent? And you'd see the desire in their hearts. So I would actually go for outreach and go into homes. And then I would follow up and see this child. Then I would encourage you. Before you even start finding a school for the child, I would encourage you to bring out the child in social life. Go with the child to church. Go with the child to, those entertainment centers. And I realized also that first and foremost, I had to really sort of counsel this parent before they would get comfortable to do what I was asking them to do. And I realized this is going to be a journey. This journey with my career was not going to work. But it was, being a teacher, it was a good ground for me to meet these parents, to meet these children. And the sad thing about it all was that some of these PWDs, some of these people I call children, were not quite children. Some were above 15 years. They'd never ventured out. And you'd tell the parents, this child has something in them that unless you take them out there, they would understand you'd understand the strength that this child has. I started going into my students' homes that they would tell me, teacher, I have a sister. Come away. They realized I talked very freely about my disability because in my head and in my life, it's never been a hindrance. Yeah, it's been an obstacle that I've surmounted. And at times, even in the streets, those days when I used to walk in town and see a disabled person seated at a corner, asking, and then they would see me coming and you'd see them changing like, okay. The disabled, those days that were genuine ones, okay? And they would see, so I would get into a talk and they would be very interested. I'll say, I'll give you this money, but I want to talk to you. So we would talk and then I say, had I not gotten the support I got, I would be doing what you're doing. But then said, sasa mimi sina hiyo support kama I said, but I'm here, I can support you. So we got into conversations, we became very friendly. And I also remembered that I used to do this even when I was in campus. I was in Kenyatta Universities those days. So then I also started in school. I would go and then see a child with disability reporting. And then after some days, you don't see them. I would follow up. Then I would ask, why don't you come to school anymore? Teacher, umejua I have to walk all the way. Then I'm like, walking here, I'll be paying your fare. I'm a teacher, I'm single with a child, but I still felt that this child needs a chance. Okay? So when my child had now left home, my daughter had left home, had now started doing that, I felt this is a free time for me now to leave my career and get into this. Then I also realized that my career would not allow me to go out when I wanted. For seminars and all those things, I would not go. And that pained me. So one day, I just got up and penned a resignation letter and took to my principal, who refused. Called the other teachers, and then I got very upset. I told him, stop bullying me. I've made up my mind and I'm leaving. He wasn't really bullying me, but I wanted something that would just make him tell me, go. Yeah. So I went, and then the next thing I did, I took a form and filled a form to go for my master's, which had left pending. So I went and finished my master's. I finished actually in 2020. But then by then, I went and set up an office to start doing to start the birth of global action for women with disabilities. And let me also go back that was not the first time I was making that attempt.
Okay.
I had tried before in 2014. But then I was like, okay, if I leave my job and I don't get any income out there, how will my daughter go to school? She's in high school. How is she going to go to school? So I kept on being pulled back. Then I remember one time getting an invitation to Canada, an organization in Canada, invited me to go talk to them, tell them my story, what I do. Just because of my kiherehere, I just got some contact and then I wrote to them. And then they responded. So I went to ask for permission to travel abroad. And it was denied. At work? At work.
Oh, no.
And that pained me so badly. In 2016, my sister is in Australia. So we spoke with her about this issue, my eldest sister. We talked with her about this issue, how I didn't manage to travel to whatever. Even as she was hearing for the first time, she was like, why didn't you tell me? So she told me, okay, come to Australia, come do this. Again, I went to seek for permission. It was denied. But then this time, I didn't stop. I actually pushed my way out, went, got a visa, and traveled. And when I got back, I got to talk to people who promised that if the outfit is actually in place, registered, they'd be able to come and support. Okay? So I came back. What I met at work was terrible. I was without a salary for 8 months. Yes, because my principal, because I was there for just a month. But the TSC knew about this because I went now through TSC. They gave me a letter. Without getting a letter from my school, TSC gave me a letter. I traveled. But when I got back, the problem was I was almost interdicted. Not by TSC, but the letters, the principals are actually the what do you call them? The agent. They're actually the agents of
yes.
TSC.
Yes.
So that kind of shook me a little. For 8 months, I didn't have a salary. I used to go to work, but I didn't have a salary.
Was
I never
this like
complained.
a form of punishment, or what was
the case? Was on. They had called my principal had actually. My principal had written to TSC that I had absconded.
Okay.
And so my salary was suspended immediately. Yeah, so I would go to work every morning and leave in the evening. And the cases, the board members were called. Luckily, I would always give. They ask me this, I would give them. Ask me this. But then this persisted for 8 months. Then my salvation came through just a story, a parent who had this story in the staff room that and it was being spoken behind my back, and this person had. And then when we went to those days, the director of education, she talked about it. So she was like, do you know her contact? She said, yes. So they took my contact, they called me, asked me, where are you? I said, I'm in school. What are you doing? I'm teaching. Are you sure you're in school? Yes, I'm in school. What's going on at school? I said, nothing. I said, no. Do you have a salary? I said, no, I've not had a salary for 8 months. Can you come here now? So I went. It's called a short, long of the story. Or the other way
Long story
around.
short.
Long story short. I was reinstated.
Okay.
Yeah. So that made me stop again. And then in 2019, as I've said, when my daughter now we had finished, she was in now campus, I was saying, now I can do my things. So that's when I penned my resignation, left, and then now birthed GAWD. We started off in an office with one desk with just my friend, whom we were within campus. We were doing our master's with him. So we started it off. And he volunteered, and we started recruitment and registration. Then I called my mother. I told her, you're going to be the ambassador that side, because my mother had this habit of every time she would see a person with disability or a young girl, she would send the person to me, help that girl. So when we birthed Global Action for Women with Disabilities, I realized that actually she had a vision before I had it. So I told her, you're going to be an ambassador that side. Oh, and she did it. She recruited old people with disabilities, young women with disabilities. And the good thing is that she would tell them about GAWD. So advocacy continued and awareness continued. And we went further, and we used to find children in homes. And we found children that they would even call mad children because they're autistic. We found children that they would even call curses because maybe there was cerebral palsy, and you know how cerebral palsy behaves. So we got them, and we said, as long as they're from 13, 14 going upwards, we will take them under Global Action for Women with Disabilities. Reason we couldn't take the younger ones because, the Children's Act also limited us. We didn't want to get into those issues but that did not stop us. We didn't make them our members, but all the same, we gave our help. We helped the parents. We would give diapers. We would give periodic medicine because the parents, some of them are on medicine. And we would buy for them. But what also piqued my mind was that these parents were mostly in the slum areas. And so the next thing was that in the slum areas, I found that they didn't have water, or even parents or young women with disabilities or women with disabilities getting access to water was a tall order. So what happened was that we were like, growing up, I was in a school. I lived with my uncle at some point. And I don't call it a punishment, but we used to fetch water from, it was about, I wouldn't say 2 kilometers, but something like that, almost. And I would carry water. I would actually carry water, carry. And the pain, the heaviness, it was so difficult. It was so difficult. And so that made me say, if I could get water closer to these people, it would make it easy. But if I said, but I don't have the resources, So I started asking people for help. My family really, really were great at it. I have a sister who is an influencer. She's great at influencing on FB. So she was doing this thing of, she was promoting tanks, water tanks. Mm-hmm. Then I told her, Celine, why don't you talk to your people to get me a few tanks here and there? And then she did. So I would donate these tanks. Then there was a time I also just tried to have a fundraising. It didn't go very well. Mm-hmm. I got very, very little money. Mm-hmm. But even that money was a start. Mm-hmm. I got little tanks. And let me tell you, even big containers for carrying, for just storage for water, mm-hmm. for them, mm-hmm. is really a big deal. It is a big deal, and they were really appreciative of it. I have very many members who have to pay people to carry water for them. Mm. Okay? And most of them don't have income. So where do they get this money from? From charity. No, asking from here, asking from there. Then someone will agree to carry water to their home. So I put in as much as some of the tanks that we put was helping the whole place, the whole, let's say, the community around that place. We didn't mind, in as long as this person was getting the PWD, or the woman with disability was getting access to that water. So water and sanitation was also big for me. And when it came to sanitation, it was a big challenge. Okay. Without resources, it is still a very, very big challenge for me. Because there's some places where the toilets, accessing the toilets, kizungumkuti. So again, I am in the process of finding a way. But for some of them, I bought porticommode wheelchairs. The ones with the toilets that they could use in the night and then maybe dispose of themselves. And when I did that, they were like, umetupatia independence. Sasa mtu aone uchafu wako. You see, because they can wheel themselves to that place. In as much as it's difficult, they could get someone to wheel them there and then dispose of their the waste, and then wash this, whatever, the container, and come back into their houses. With that, to me, that gave them a dignified life. And it was very important. And that is in Nairobi. But what happened in the rural areas? Again, the same thing. I had to get tanks. It was easier for me to get tanks for harvesting water, rainwater, than sinking a borehole. I don't have those kind of resources again. So that is so much, there's a lot much more with water and sanitation. But then the other program we're also having is in education. Okay. Yes, we have education. We have members that are beneficiaries of education because of Global Action for Women with Disabilities. And we have 2 tiers of membership for this scholarship. One, the first tier is the woman or girl with disability herself. So if the parents are unable and they don't have a support system in as far as education goes, then would come in. I would come in and then I would get monies here. I'll tell you how I get my resources. I would get little monies and then I would pay in bits to school. First, we would get them placements to schools that they can access. Because I was in schools somewhere very difficult. Well, you could access the school, but school getter. Then after that, it was very difficult to access the buildings. Going from one building to the other one is so removed. And then my climax was in Kenyatta University. I was doing Bachelor of Education Arts. So the lecture theaters were a bit far removed from the other. And you know, the lectures were within the hour. This one inaisha, people wanatoka wakikimbia wanaenda kwa hiyo lecture ingine, and some would be massive and said nitakushikia kiti, because we were many. Nitakushikia kiti. But most of the times I would get there when the lecture was almost remaining only for 15 minutes to go. I had to walk across. Some, I would even just decide I'm not going for that one because it was far. The lecture theaters were far apart. And I remember in second year, I almost dropped out. I almost dropped out. Had it not been for my dad, who really valued education. And one time he even asked me, do you want to defer? Would you like me to change campus for you? So I asked him, what would changing campuses mean? It would mean, I asked him, would it mean that I start afresh? And he said, not quite. But then I'll get into that when I'm telling about my personal life.
Okay.
So KU was very difficult for me. But by grace of God, I finished and I graduated.
Amazing.
So I always have that at the back of my mind. Accessing the school, yes, you've gone through the gate, yes. But then what else? You have to change classes, you have to move from this to the next. So I decided I would look for schools that were very accessible. Schools that were not, and then being a teacher, I knew that there were some teachers who were very understanding.
Yeah.
So even as I birthed the Global Action for Women with Disabilities, I used to still have connection with some teachers. And I would talk to them. Hey, nakuleta mtoto hapo umchunge. And so that continued. And you'd want to ask me again, why didn't they just go to school, special needs schools? I never went to any special school. Never, ever. I went to all were integrated, even those days. And I knew what integration made me to be. And I would say, I love the integrated schools. And I wanted these girls to go to integrated schools. Because first and foremost, I reasoned when they finish these schools, they're going to go to universities or colleges that had integrated.
Yeah.
They were integrated, sorry. They would get married probably into a society or a community that again had everybody else.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to start the foundation as they went on. So that is the first year. So you had to have a disability for us to give you a scholarship. And when we place you into a school, we give you we pay your school fee. We also buy you the school, the requirements. Yes. Because there's no point for us taking you to school and then expect your parents to be the ones to buy you to provide.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they're very needy. Yeah. So we didn't want our charges to go and then be sent back all the time. In as much as resources is also again a problem, but again we decided we shall try our level best to keep them in schools. So far we have 8 girls in schools going on now in high school. In special primary school, we only have 1. Yes, but we're still hoping to get more. Then the second tier, I said, of scholarship was for our beneficiary. For you to benefit, you had to be a member. Probably you were a member, our first member with disability, but then you're not the student. It is your child who is now going to benefit from the scholarship. Reason is that we thought that if we could even take one of your children to school or 2 of them, our hope is that they'll come back and help you. They would come back and maybe uplift your life. Or they would come back and be able to pay for support for you. Yeah, once they go through school. So we thought that these 2 categories would still work to sort out, to alleviate the need for a lack of school fee or lack of scholarship for women with disabilities. And the third thing that we also do is gender-based violence against women with disabilities. Most women with disabilities, are not married. a bigger percent not married. I've not done something that I would call a good research, but I know I've seen quite a
from
number.
what you've seen.
Then I've also seen women who've gotten into marriages, able-bodied ones, gotten children with disabilities, and then their marriages broke. They can tell you stories. Their marriages broke completely because this child is not what we had envisaged. Why couldn't you give birth to an able-bodied child like everybody else?
And that's where the myths like the curses you were talking about comes up.
Yes. And for those who stay in those marriages, you find maybe they're shunned, they're abandoned by their spouses. And the spouse's family also abandon them. They look at them like, well, umetuharibia. So this spouse is always encouraged to have someone else. Okay? Not knowing that this child is a product of both, the marriage. Okay? So those who stay in those marriages go through hell. And when you want to rescue them, take them out, they ask you, sasa nitaenda wapi mimi ambaye ni kilema, nitaenda wapi, nani atanitaka? Then I got the feeling, and I actually confirmed that they imagine that these people who married them and abandoned them and are now maltreating them, they have this idea that the person is doing them a favor, did them a favor. And so all the mistreatments, all the violence, they're taking it in because this person did them a favor. And remember, they also culturally, they have a point. They have a point in this sense. Not that it is right for them to be battered. Not that it's right for them to be denied basic needs. No, they have a point because culture requires women, grown women, to get married. Okay? So when you're still in your father's home, you peep around, or mostly like, the men around, brothers and the cousins, male, they'll wonder, even the neighbors who do not should not be partaking of that land, they look at you like you're going to be a hindrance. You're going to be a burden. Yeah. So now when someone comes in and takes the burden off them by marrying you, and whatever you're going through in that marriage, you feel like, I can't live, nikitoka hapa naenda wapi? You see, because culture expects you, and they ask me, see, sasa wacha tu nishike mali pa kuzikwa. And I keep asking them, there's Langata, there's cemeteries all over these counties. All the 47 counties, they have cemeteries. And by the way, once you die, what do you care where you're buried anyway? And they don't understand when I say that. And I said that I realized again later that statement was not also very welcome to them. So you needed to empower them, to counsel them so that they would come to that space where they realize, actually, my life, my independence, my peace, and my comfort is paramount, irrespective of what the culture says. Okay? So this went on, and I wondered, how are we going to get these women out of this, a state where they're being mistreated? And I've also come across in my walk with GAWD, the Jijani, I've come across young women who've been abused several times. And the family know. And the families do nothing. For instance, there's this one girl. She has 2 children. Actually, there are 4 girls. The other 3 have 1 child, but this particular has 2 children. And these 2 kids are products of abuse, of rape. Okay? And I asked the parents, what did you do when this child was defiled? And they said, lakini haongei. She's severely autistic. She's on the spectrum. And lakini haongei. And then I said, but hata kama haongei, they always know the people who defile them.
Yeah.
And the truth is not that this girl was not articulate. She could actually articulate the person who defiled her. The only thing is that this child lacked rehabilitation. Like would have been taken for speech therapy early, but that was not possible probably because of the economic status of the family. So this pained me, and I asked, and akarudi tena kamdefile tena. Turns out that actually the family knew who the perpetrator was. But then because this young girl, gave birth to a child, to them that is good. So unaona hata sasa tuko na mjukuu.
No.
Yeah, that's what they would tell me. So unaona kuna mjukuu, tuna wajukuu. And they would say this like as though it is okay. It is okay. So I realized the people with disabilities are very prone to sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Then there's also another one that I used to meet. Then I asked her, don't you want to go to school? Then she said, yes, I would like to go to school. Then I told her, take me to your home. So we drove with her to her. We put her wheelchair. First of all, I did shopping for her because she said, I'm coming here so that I can beg to take my siblings to school and also to buy groceries for my mother. So we got home and I found the mother in the shamba and she came, we talked. And then the mother told me, it's not like we use her for that, to go get men or to beg, because even out there, I don't want to say border men because they were not the only ones that she cited, but there were other people who used to abuse her. And at times she said she would consent so that they would give her money to buy sanitary towels, and then she even pointed out, I want to look clean like you. So that sent a message. She's doing this, okay, for not for a good cause, but she also wants this kind of comfort. And that is the thing she imagines is the way to get these resources. So the mother told me, it's not the first time they've taken her to school, and then she left. I asked her, okay, later on we got to talking. I asked her, why did you leave this place where you are taken? She said, because I'm the eldest there and I don't know how to read. And when I try reading, they laugh at me. And at times they even mimic the way I talk or the way I walk. And I said, this girl also needs a lot of counseling. Before you get to a space where the PWDs or the disabled women can understand and actually buy into your story, there's a lot of counseling to be done.
Yeah.
Okay? So we did a lot of this, and we say, I keep telling them, you're a special woman. No one has a right to defile you. No one has a right to do anything they want with you. Then I told these parents, that this child of abuse, imagine you are abused like that, and even you got pregnant through abuse. Would you like it? The trauma that you got is the same trauma that they get. It's only that at times they can't articulate it. Or at times they'll articulate, but no one will listen to them. Okay, no one would give it much thought.
Yeah.
Si ni ule mwenda wazimu tu, ama si ni ule kilema wa nani, you know? And then these parents also don't want to come out because, again, the neighbors will ask, but what is your problem? Uko na wivu kwa sababu mtoto wako ako na ulemavu. So they also don't want they don't want the problems they're having or the conditions of their children to be thrown back onto their faces. So that again is that's one aspect or two aspects of gender violence that our PWDs face. Then again, I realized that again in not just in marriages, in workplaces. I told you I taught for about 25 years.
Yes.
Counting. Let me tell you, I taught in about 7 schools. 7.
Over the 25 years.
Of the 25 years. Some people would teach in only 2 schools or even 1 or 3. I taught in 7 schools.
Why so?
In Nairobi. I'll tell you why. When I graduated, I was posted to a school. For a person with disability, when you go anywhere, in any place, the first thing people see in you is your disability. Okay? That's the first thing they see. And they would ask, what is her name? Okay? And then you say, my name is so-and-so. They're asking the person who's accompanied you after the registration, or you go to the principal and the principal tells you, oh, you are the one who was to come. Yes. And then they say, no, sorry, your place has been taken.
After they have seen you?
Yes, after they've seen you.
Okay.
Then I realized, it's about my disability. Okay, I'll deal with it. So the second school, the first school, in as much as that happened, I was welcome. The principal called the secretary. I was taken to the staff room, and they asked, they said, what is her name? And I was like, but why is she being asked my name?
Yeah.
Then I said, my name is so-and-so. And I was still a little bit timid. It was my first time to a big school, and it was a big school in the city. Well, I've been in the city long enough, but so I was a little timid. Then they asked, what does she teach? You know, the question was always directed to this secretary. And then I would say, I'm here to teach 2 subjects, 1 and 2. Okay. So everything, I realized I was given a desk. I was welcomed by my neighbor, and who was also very gracious and very kind to me. But everybody wanted to ask her questions. Where does she live? What does she do? So she said, I've not asked her. See? So that first experience, I went to class and the girls were like, Okay, it was a girls' school. So the whoever took me to this, went to introduce me to class, spoke about me, a little about me. That was very courteous of her. And then now she left me. She said, you can continue. And my first class was Form 3. Okay, not even Form 1. Form 3. So I went in and the girls were quiet. Very quiet. Then I say, good morning, girls. And then they said, wow. So that actually was good for me. It was good for my ego, was good for everything.
Yeah.
And then I said, why are you saying all this? We like the way you talk. I said, oh, okay, thank you. So we started off like that. The girls were very, very kind. I taught, and they realized, okay, she can teach. She's a good teacher. And so that now made the other teachers start looking up like, oh, she's competent. Okay. So what I was saying, with people with disability, your disability stands out first before what you know and what you can do. Okay. So most of the time you're judged on the basis of how you walk, or how you can see, or if you can't hear the sign languages, or if you can't, whatever it is, the wheelchair, they judge you on that first. So this went on. My second school now was very tough. I would come in and then you ask, what's her name? I say, I have a mouth. I have a voice. I can tell you who I am. And they realize, oh, this one. And then you'd tell me, I remember one school told me, we can't take you in. I said, why? I was told, because we are overstaffed. I said, but when I was at TSC, I read that you needed a teacher to teach this. Say, no, someone already came. Then I found myself telling the principal, that's really not my problem. My problem is I'm a teacher and I've been sent here to teach. Then she said, no, you are not, we won't take you. I said, madam, please call the TSC. I know there were no mobile phones then. Please call the TSC and talk to the TSC. That's not my problem. And so the first encounter was a very rude teacher. And it went to the staff room. Oh, we got a teacher. She's very rude. So I went to the staff room knowing that message had preceded. So when I went to the staff room, I found people I knew. Oh no, by the way, she's a very good teacher. So that again broke that thing of a rude teacher, because they said she's a very good teacher, but she's very tough. So even other teachers, I remember some carrying their work for me to mark. I said, no, that's your work. You do your work, I do my work. And so as time went by, I realized you have to stake your space. I have to stake my boundary. I have to actually tell you that is your space. This is my space. Please keep your space. I keep a space. But again, I was very, very sociable. And everyone always, after some time, they always used to find themselves around me. Handa, how do we do this? And I'd book for us a place. I was almost, not to brag, but I was almost the alpha of the party. Yes. So most of that's how I got into my employment space. But then, with the time as I got into I started hearing cases of teachers who could not land in schools that they were taken to. Reason, they were disabled, they had a disability. And I kept wondering, how do I do this? And later on, when those was now the mobile phones were there. I got a call from Kiambu one day, from Murang'a actually, one day, about a teacher who was denied access to the staff room completely. And the principal, the head teacher told her, that was primary school, the head teacher told her, we do not accept disabled people here. Yes, outrightly like that. Outright. Okay. But by then, now, I was the Nairobi, Kenya National Union of Teachers. I was now the representative for teachers with disabilities in Nairobi County. A seat where we contested, kama hii national siasa. That's what we did. It was hotly contested, and I won. You would go campaigning in all the schools in Nairobi. And I won that. And I said, this is what we are going to do. So again, I started calling. I called the National Council. It was a big fight before. And the teacher, I remember the lawyer then at the National Council telling me, umejua kuna head teachers wengine powerful sana. Hakuna kitu naweza fanya. I said, I don't care. You are put there as the lawyer for the disabled. Do something about it. Then as what can I do? I said, no, you do your work. So again, it was war. I called people. And I told the principal, that head teacher, I am going to use the Facebook, social media against you. That teacher must land. So the teacher landed. But even when you land amidst all that, because even the other teachers were now shunning her. Reason, we don't want to be in the bad books with the head teacher. You see?
This one has come with a lot of...
And I told her, look, we persons with disabilities, even in our workspaces, we have to stake our boundaries. We have to stand firm. And if anyone sees your disability before your ability, that is their problem. That is not your problem. You go teach. Don't sit in your cars. You said you sit in your car, you go to class, then you go sit in your car. Don't do that. Go into the staff room and get any seat and sit there. Let anyone heave you out of that seat. They said, I told her, be strong. I'm not going to be strong for you, but I can tell you, you have to stand firm. Yeah, so 2 weeks later, she told me, I landed. Yeah, things are good now. Lakini vile ile kilio nimelia, ile machozi nimeshed, nikamwambia, that is part and parcel of our life. But then I realized it doesn't have to be that. Okay, so I realized that we are facing violence everywhere we go. In churches, you'd find that there's, even with the youth leadership, sometimes unless you're very strong, they would not give you space. Okay? And even in these small groups, there's women's union, mothers' union, there's karma, there's all those things. You go into your church and look around. Look at the lives. Look at how the PWDs operate in those churches. And unless you find one who is very vocal, they will not be given enough space there. And then this is also in schools where students with disabilities experience a lot of barriers. To me, that is violence. And then violence can also be verbal. I remember there was a time we had a protracted case. I told you, now I came across as a rude person. When I wanted to take my space back, I came out as very rude, very aggressive. And yes, it was fine for me to get all those adjectives as long as whatever was right was done. I remember we had a long protracted war in one of the schools I was in. There was this teacher who made herself, and it was even in the mainstream media. It actually went there.
Really?
It was so bad. This teacher, for reasons best known to her, I don't know what we even thought. It just started a lot of hostility. So she would wait along the corridors where no one would see her, and then she would walk the way I walk. And then she realized that was not hurting me. And so she started using students against me. But again, I was very popular in school. So some students would come and tell me. So this came, and then one day I called and told her, I have a disability, but let me tell you, I'm a very strong woman. Breaking me is very difficult. And so I started feeling like, okay, this psychological violence that you're projecting will not land on me. So one day, she would take also videos of myself walking. And I wondered, where are you taking these videos to?
What's the reason?
And then I told her, okay, I'm warning you. I'm giving you the last warning to stop doing what you're doing, or I'll deal with you. So one time, I don't know what I was doing, but I found, I looked up to see her taking a photo of me. So I told the student, I was actually invigilating exams. So I told the students, I'm coming back. So I went because I was very angry, I went to the deputy head teacher and reported. And the teacher told me, okay, let me go call her. Okay? So I came in and sat down. Then the head teacher's, the deputy head table was on the other side, and she was called, so she came in. So the deputy walked out to go bring another teacher as a witness to this. And I'm telling you, I was very tough. So they also knew this is not going to be easy, because I'd reported this before. So when I came in, she told me, so you think you're very beautiful, so I took the opportunity. I got very aggressive. A fight ensued. So it didn't last for long. It was for a very short time. So she ran out. She ran out. And then I just sat calmly. When she ran out, she went and got some other few of her friends. And let me tell you what she did. She went and pierced herself with a screwdriver on the thigh, pulled some hairs of her in it, and then went and reported that I assaulted her. And the police came to school, and the case went on, and she was told, she covered herself very well, because she even went to the hospital. She pretended and took a photo of herself lying on the gunny, that gunny. And so these were being used against me. And I remember she even paid someone, a blogger, to write about me, about how I had this affair with what. She wrote very funny things about me. And that didn't hurt me. I said, this I'll see to the very end. So the case went to the TSC. And eventually, actually, she was found at fault. She was suspended. Okay. Just suspended. And the case, things went back to normal. So that was not just a case for me. Those are cases that other PWDs deal with a lot. And that's why at times people say, watu wenye ulemavu wanakuaga wakali. No, it's because when I get to a place, you see my disability, You want to judge me, so I put up a front. Like, okay, you think I'm less a human being, which is never a good place to be at. It's never a good place. It takes away your good side. It makes people judge. It makes people use adjectives that are not so good. But for those who are not strong enough, they crumble. For those who are strong, you are looked at as a very aggressive person. So those are the kind of the violence that we face. Okay. And then again, being used as a tool, sexual tool, even in marriages. Nothing happens, you are a tool, and everybody says it is fine. Okay, this person did you a favor. So this, I've seen enough women with disability go through this. And so GAWD came in to put a program for gender-based violence women. First of all, we have a shelter. Okay, our shelter is a very unique shelter for PWDs. We take women and we take girls with disabilities. But in the event that we get a referral who is able-bodied or male, a young child, not old people, if it's male, has to be very young children that we keep in our custody as they undergo counseling. And so our shelter has ramps. It is the toilets are very accessible. The dining area is accessible, and when they come, we have counseling for them, and then after some time, we reintegrate them back into the community. At times, you have to change where they go to, because the perpetrator is still in that society.
Yeah.
The community, let me call it that way. The perpetrator can easily access them. And they would still, not that the disability has gone once you've taken the shelter, no. But then they are strengthened. And if it was the perpetrator was, and most of these perpetrators are within the family, yeah? So if this perpetrator, if it was a spouse, and maybe the violence is hinged on the fact that she's not economically empowered or independent, when they come to the shelter, we give them skilling. We skill them. Those who want to go for pastries, we get someone. When they're at the shelter, they do that. When they're outside the shelter, then they go to these people to continue the skilling. We have those who do cosmetology, and I have a spa and a barber shop where they can come and do the interning. And then I also have a small tour company called Amigos Land Safaris. At times, some of them go into that, or at times I just find for them spaces. Now, the shelter, the idea of the shelter came in when I would actually be confronted with this kind of problems, but I didn't know where to take them. So I would approach you and ask you, please take this lady for me. Ishinae, I will provide for her basic needs, and I'll give you something small. But let me tell you, the persons with disabilities, what we go through is stigma after stigma after stigma. There are times when my friends would want to do this, but then they have children, and then they have a spouse. The spouse who will feel like, this is an infringement. And this infringement, at times, you have to give them extra care. Okay? Very difficult. Okay? So you can keep them in those families for a very short time.
Yeah.
My first shelter was in a gated community in another place where I faced a lot of trouble. One, they kept saying that walemavu wanakuja hapa wanashtua watoto wetu. Okay? When I went there and they would see me, I am welcome. Why am I welcome? They feel that I look smart, I'm articulate. Okay, maybe I have some little monies of my own, so I am okay. But when that very vulnerable one comes in, or on a wheelchair or on crutches, or wengine pia they're crippled and they come in, and wanatushtulia watoto. So you become now like the neighbors are complaining, these ones are complaining. But even, when everyone is complaining about you, And even if you don't hear it, you feel it.
Yeah.
You start feeling it. Start feeling it. So we shut down that shelter. Eventually now we found a place, also gated community. But then I said, what has to be done has to be done. So we opened another shelter. The current shelter is called GAWD Anchor Home. It's a beautiful place. We've sheltered quite a number of women, and they're happy about it when they come there. They see me and they trust me more because I also have a disability. And then you take them through skilling. Then after they've been taken them, psychotherapy support first, then skilling. Then from there, they go into, you give them what is called an exit pack.
Okay.
The exit pack is a little token. If this person was doing maybe hairdressing, skilling, or cosmetology, or baking, or whatever, you give them a pack that probably at times could have some things to help her set her own place. We don't have quite a good amount of money, or at times we have none. I'll tell you how we get our resources. But once we get these resources, we put a package for them, and then we exit them. And right now we've partnered with CREW. You know CREW? Center for Rights, Education, and for women. For women, okay?
Yes.
And not women with disability, just for women, okay? So CREW helps us in, first, at times they refer their own to us, especially when they're persons with disability. We get also from the police gender desk. We get some from the courts. We get some from hospitals. And we also get some referrals from friends who've been there. And so CREW at times comes into our aid to exit them. CREW is in talks. CREW and other partner organizations, they're in talks with the banks with institutions that can give PWDs or other people from the shelters. We call them survivors. They give them cheaper loans, and we monitor this. Okay, it's in the process, but once in a while you get well wishers or philanthropic institutions that are ready to do this. The very sister that I talked about, that is an influencer at times, she helps me get someone who can even give 2,000 or 20,000 a month, or at least to sustain this one for a while.
Yeah.
So that's how we reintegrated them into the back into the society. But then again, as I said, at times we have to shift them away from their usual living areas.
Yeah.
Okay. And in that cases, you have to get a rental place for them. Okay. But there's some that we know, this one, if you give them the money, the starter pack to go start off with, it will go into other things because our needs are massive. And I always tell people that where the PWD, where able-bodied women have problems, the problems of a PWD woman is almost double. Your problem and my problem as a PWD, yes, we could be facing the same problem, but mine is double.
Yeah.
We go against a lot of odds, okay? So, but then again, life must go on. We must continue. So we decide this one, if you give them this amount of money, instead of putting it in the business, maybe it will go into rent. So what do? You get the tools of trade. But them tools of trade, yes, but then you also pay that rent. I have a case back in the rural. We are building a house. We built about 5 houses. Okay? Again, I'll tell you where the resources come from.
Okay.
I'll keep on telling you that. We built 5. This particular one has been, the father, before the father passed away, the father gave her a small piece of land because the father knew my child is disabled and she's a woman. Chances that she'll not go anywhere, not be married anywhere. very high. But then again, the daughter got married, yes. The husband got into an accident somewhere and disappeared. Up to today, she doesn't know what happened to the husband. She only knew that he was in an accident at the workplace and he disappeared like that. And so now, unfortunately for her, she was not able to get children. So now her problem is double faceted again. There's culture also requires you to have children as a woman.
Yeah.
So you're barren, that is a problem. And you are disabled, that is a bigger problem. And you're an African woman, a bigger problem. Okay, so what happened to her was that she was chased from her marital home because they thought that if that man has gone and don't have children, you're occupying this space for nothing.
Yeah, why are we keeping it?
And she says, when she talks about those words, she cries. So I asked her, why are you crying? She said, hey, waliniambia mambo mabaya sana. I asked her, are there wounds on your body because of those ones? Then she laughs. So there are some times when you have to laugh at these situations because others will die. So even her, given her age, the counseling continues. But then again, she went into church. And so she ran. When she went back to her home, the piece of land the father gave her, the father put up a house for her, a small house. So this house, the brothers also chased her from that place because they wanted this land. They have sons. The land that the father left for them is not enough.
They needed this one also.
So they want this one. And because you are a disabled and you're a woman, go get out of here. So she went and sought refuge at a church. So the church gave her, these churches where people live, women catechists, those ones. So she was given a room. She would stay there. But then her problem was compounded by the fact that the water had to be fetched from out there. She needed to buy her own groceries. So when we found her, we decided, I asked her, would you like to go back to your home? She said, I would really love a home of my own. I have a piece of land. I said, but if your brother sent you away from that piece of land, why would you want to go back there? She said, I could leave for them the other part and then go to this other lower part. I'll ask them if they would allow me to do that. So later on, she called me and told me they have agreed if I could take only that part, it would be okay. So then again, the house that they put up a smaller house for her there. But the problem is it was a swampy place where she was put on. So every time it would rain, the water would come from, it's the swamp. It was rise through the floor. Yeah. And she didn't have a bed. So every time it would rain, she would tuck herself at a corner. Yeah. So she went through this for quite a while. And then I asked her, why don't we just move you away from here? But then again, as a woman, she wants to have a sense of belonging. She wants to be around people, even as much as they do not want her to be there. So I told her, no, we are moving you out of here. So again, I told you my mother used to send people to me. It's my mom who found her. So my mother again told me, even though you don't have resources, I have unga, I have mahindi, I have beans, I can always send to her every so often. So we had an agreement with my mother. I would pay the rent where she was living and also get someone to be taking water to her. But my mother would provide for food, and that was in the village. And then we started putting up a house for her. But then again, that tussle over the land thing.
Oh, it was on the same land that the brothers...
Just a little bit moved from on the side. But
okay.
Yeah, so this tussle thing came up again and we said, okay, let us look for money to buy land for you. So we are in the process of trying to buy land for her. Then we'll build a house for her. And so that she can, and we're planning, well, once we build that house, we'll put a tank. We'll also put a toilet inside. So she can wheel herself, because we've given a wheelchair, but it's not very good because the terrain in the village,
it's not the best.
That wheelchair, it's not very conducive for her. But then again, she's a very strong-willed person. So we are planning to get for her the house. We're planning to get for her a water tank or storage that can be at least the water that she can harvest rainwater. We are planning also to have a small business because thank God she was skilled. She makes very beautiful clothes when she has a chance. So we also wanted to buy for her machines so that she can open a swing shop for herself. Yes. Then we have this other one that was also abandoned by the husband. She's been living in the marketplace for a very, very long time.
A marketplace?
Marketplace, yes. As she rented a place, but she sells bananas.
Okay.
So at first we started by boosting her banana business. And then she told us now the banana business is doing well. Now she wants to go into the business of roasting maize. I said, are you sure that's what you want? Again, she said, yes. All I need is space. So we secured a space for her in that marketplace. And the bananas, she brings bananas and puts in the store. So people now, it's like now she becomes the second wholesaler for bananas.
So they come and...
Yes. So she's she's sufficiently sustained in the matters of food to eat and the little things. Then now we got into agreement with one of her brothers-in-law, and they allowed her to build in the home. So I told her, and she believes in culture so much. So she told me, let me just put up something. Then maybe later on when I get money, I will do what? I'll put up a better house. So this brother-in-law came, culturally, they set her up, then they put for her a very small house. And I used to pass through her place and look at that house and just want to cry because it was like a toilet. This village toilet, it was very small. And whenever it rained, she would stand up because the rain would come through the sheaves. That's okay. So I told her, just be patient with me. I'm looking for resources. So we got someone to give us timber. And then now the rest we started building. We built for her a 3-bedroom house in the village. She loves her house. She loves it. It's not yet complete in the sense that we still need to do the plastering. And then we needed to also have a water tank, a complete house. We need her to get a complete house with because it even has a toilet on the side. But you see now in the village, unless there's very good water sewerage, you can't put those toilets inside the house. So even that one. But the other two, this one we had to look for land and buy. Somewhere deep in Kitui, we secured a bit of land and put up a house for her. She's disabled and she has 2 children who are also disabled. They don't go to school because the schools are so far. The school is so far. The nearby school is up over 6 kilometers away. It's really far.
So they're not able to.
So we are trying to negotiate with her to move to a shopping center. But according to her, shopping center means taking taking her away from what now she can call hers.
So the sense of ownership.
Next year we want to take these 2 children to a boarding school. Yes, so we haven't done that because we're thinking the kind of disability they have, they really have to be at a school where basic amenities are accessible. Yes, so that is under our outreach programs under GBV and shelters.
You had told us that you're going to tell us where you get your funding from.
I am going to tell you. I'm still taking you through our programs.
Okay.
Do we still have time?
A bit more time.
Okay.
Yes.
So we also do psychotherapy.
Okay.
When you come to our place, even if you're not in our shelter, we'll do psychotherapy for you and those psychosocial supports very necessary.
Yes.
And then we put them in support groups around the place. Then we also have, what do you call this other one? I've talked about the gender-based violence. I'll talk about education or sexual and reproductive health.
Okay.
We're also big on it, especially women with disabilities. When it comes to HIV and AIDS, it also ravages us, okay? We also have needs, needs just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But then at times you find that the PWD women, when they go for retrovirals, ARVs, the stigma follows them. They ask, "Ata wewe?" See, "Ata wewe." That phrase, "Hata wewe," is very loaded. When you tell me "Hata wewe," it means I'm less a human being. I'm not supposed to engage in sexual activities. I'm not a human being who should be having feelings. And then again, at times, I got this through rape.
Yeah.
At times, I got this in a way that you don't understand. It's not what you think, you see. At times, it's brought to my house. My spouse brings it back to me. And so we keep away from places where someone will ask me or look at me like, "Ata wewe." Yeah, because a person with disability is very, very sensitive.
Yes.
Okay? So that we do that. We try to push them and tell them their rights. They must, if it is sex, it has to be consensual. And they have a right to it. They have a right not to be told to give birth, because some of them, two of them, one in Kilifi, one in Kiambu again, was told that asizae mtoto kama yeye. So they can't give birth. Tazaa mtoto kama wewe. You see? So that we say it is your right to give birth when you want, to get a baby if and when you want. Okay? So those are among many that we deal with. The COVID ravaged us, and we did a lot of outreach programs. Now, let me tell you where I get my resources from. I told you my family is very supportive.
Yes.
Every so often I reach out. Too many kitu watu wa shelter watalala njaa. And my daughter would, my sisters would, my brother would. And then again, even after skilling, I have a brother who passed on this year. God rest his soul in peace. I would tell him, "Cizero, I need this done. We need to set this into a job." Then he would look around and at least find some people put in there. Work, job. So that worked for me too. My second place where I source funds from, I'm in so many chamas. I'm in 15 chamas, online chamas. Only 2 are physical, and I'm in a circle. So at times I take loans from my circle to run this. At times it's my chamas, and I'm sure you're asking, so how far can a chama take you? Yes. Before I get to chamas, we have table banking for our members. That is also an empowerment program, economic empowerment program that we have for them. So when you're our member and you're able to pay every month, you pay 500 towards that kitty, then you can also borrow a loan, take out a loan from us. And they collect money, and we put them in groups. We have so many groups of women who are doing table banking. And before you start as a group, we give you seed money. We can put in 5,000 seed money. Then you collect after 3 months. When you start after 3 months, you borrow. Start borrowing. We want you also to borrow this seed money. Then we'll be monitoring. We come and see that it's growing and everybody is disciplined. We up the seed money. We move probably to 10. Okay? Then we move to 15. Then at the end of the year, for instance, there's a group that is actually finished yesterday. They closed the year yesterday. They get the dividends, and then they put back a bit of it.
Yeah, percentage
into the kitty
goes
to start
back.
for the So this has helped in enabling them to get school fee for their children, pay rents for themselves, sustain their small businesses. So that table banking is a success in my view. And so back to where I told you about chamas.
Yes.
I have chamas that I work very hard towards. At times it gets very difficult. I have small chamas that pay the big chamas. I have chamas that we even get 1 million shillings when your turn comes. We pay 100,000. How do I get 100,000 every month to pay there? This is how I get it. I have chamas that I pay 2,000 dailies. There are 4 of them. Each gives me 60,000. Okay. Now the 60,000 goes into paying the first installment for that 100,000. The second goes into paying another one for the other 1 million one. The other one goes towards paying the 800 one. The other one goes towards paying the 600 one.
It's a whole system.
It's a whole system. It goes like that. Goes just around like that. And I told you I left my job. I resigned.
Yes.
And so I don't have any source of income.
Monthly income coming your way.
None.
Sorry.
None. Then again, I sell fish on order. And at times I also give my members that to sell. They sell on orders. So we get fish from Gikomba. We clean it. It's fried. We sell.
You sell.
That goes into these small chamas. Okay. And also for sustaining me. And then my daughter and her husband are very passionate about this. Every so often, they take up a program and they pay. My sisters are great. They have, a percentage of whatever money they get monthly.
It comes on
every other month. It comes in here. Okay. So I have those kind of support to get resources from.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm personally very sad, but in my head I'll take this as part 1 because I also truly deeply want to hear your story. But I think I have to close off now because you have to go back to the session.
That's fine. I've basically put in a lot of myself into that.
Yes.
So the other thing I didn't tell you is that I got my disability. By the age of 9, I realized, my parents realized this one is actually going to have a disability through her life. Mine was started at the age of 7, and by age 9, now it was confirmed. It was cerebral palsy, cerebral malaria, not palsy, cerebral malaria. So that affected me. And medicine was not advanced those days. Yes, and I'm a mother, I should say that as well. And I'm a grandmother, I should say that too. And apart from teaching as a career, I'm also a counselor.
Okay.
Yes, I had my MA in counseling psychology. So basically, I've had so many groups that I've led for all in defense of women with disability. Okay. So I think that pretty much tells you who I am and who GAWD is. Yes. Thank you very much.
And if they wanted to reach out to you for support or someone who is in the same situation and would like some counseling from you or someone who's just simply inspired by your story, what's the best way that they can reach you?
One, we're a registered organization. So we have bank accounts. Okay. So you can call us. We give you our accounts numbers. Our contact number, the one that is usually used because it's 0721 676827. Okay. So that is our contact that you can call, then we can give you our details. Yes. Okay. But we welcome everybody, any kind of support, clothes in kind, in cash. There we accept all that. Okay. And it would be a huge disservice for me to not ask you how the program is going for you currently, the classes you're taking in this current program that you're in with Sauti Kenya. The one we are attending now? Yes. Oh, it's very informative. Let me tell you what flaws or what makes some of these organizations crawl or even not, die at infancy is capacity building, which we lack. The Ushindi Empowerment Program is very rich in that. It has really given us a lot of legal information, communication, how to source for funds, the process is still on. It is a beautiful, beautiful and very productive and informative program.
Okay.
And we thank Ushindi Empowerment and the Canadian organization for doing this.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for allowing me to have this conversation with you. And thank you for sharing all that you've shared, both your story and some of the stories that you've come across. This feels very incomplete. I feel like I have very many more questions.
Well, it's our lives can never be complete. Actually, it is a long journey. So we hope also that we would come back later on.
Yes.
And thank you again for giving me an opportunity and platform to tell my story and our story.
Yes.
In most cases, people tell our stories. So when you tell our stories, it never quite comes out as who I am,
as authentic,
what I feel, and
yes.
So thank you very much.
And I hope that we can possibly have a follow-up very soon.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.